Good morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is Thursday, the 5th day of June, 2025. Thursday of the 7th and final week of Easter. It is the 47th day of the Easter season, drawing quickly to a close, but not an end of its impact, and the reminder of who and what we are called to be as believers in this world. We are a people of resurrection. We are a people of new life. We are not a people of penitence. We are not a people who are constantly, only looking at our sinfulness and our brokenness, and that is all. We are much more than that always, and Easter reminds us of that. If but for this short time, it is supposed to make enough of an impact in our lives that we continue to live in the light of Easter. This is always something that is so important, especially as we draw to the close of the Easter season. We must emphasize again and again and again. So on this campus today, it is a rainy day. We've had some beautiful days lately, but it's a rainy day today, and rather sad because all of our schools have closed for the summer. It is now summer break. Our preschool closed before the Franciscan school, but now everyone departed yesterday. A quiet morning. It's always very sad when you move into this time of the year, because kind of the joy and the energy that our schools bring to this compound, to this parish, are kind of put on hiatus for a while, and so look forward to welcoming them back in October, which is not in October, in August, which is just basically 2 short months away. So a good break, but not a long break, to be able to be back together again. As we look at these readings for today, for this for this Thursday in the 7th week of Easter, 47th day of Easter, we also celebrate Saint Boniface, the great missionary to the Germanic peoples back in the I think it was the 700s or 800s, somewhere, maybe even 600s, somewhere in that time clock. But going there again, bringing the word of God to the Germanic peoples, and basically from there again establishing another formidable force for the Christian movement that began to influence again many other cultures and peoples around them. So Saint Boniface today, praying for the church in Germany, always praying for the church among all of those people of Germanic descent. But on this 47th day of Easter, the trial begins in Jerusalem that Paul must face now. Again, Paul has undergone many different kinds of trials, but this is the one that is most serious, and he is brought in by a commander of the guard who seems to be not necessarily part of the Israelite police force, but seems to be part of the Roman police force that is there, and the group that Paul faces is a group of both Pharisees and Sadducees. Now remember, Paul was a Pharisee, and Paul was somebody who persecuted Christians and was even there at the stoning of Stephen, as we have recorded in Acts of the Apostles. So there's probably a lot of animosity now towards Paul, who was one of their number, and now they think has turned against them, and is preaching ridiculous things that are upsetting the people and upsetting their power. And so The main cause is resurrection of the dead. The main cause of the trial is resurrection of the dead, and whether or not to believe that. But that's kind of just a top issue. But there is division, because the Pharisees believed in the possibility of it. The Sadducees did not. And so, this is where then dissent begins to break out amongst them, and fear that Paul is going to be torn to pieces because of all the anger and whatever it is. Things just out of control. And so that commander of the guard basically whisks Paul away to put him back into some kind of compound of safety for kind of a later, assessment of his situation and things like that. So it is just a whole problem of trying to understand again what is happening. Now, what's also on the horizon, again, in historical ways, is that the power of the Pharisees and the power of the Sadducees will eventually end, because Rome will launch an offensive in a couple of years against Israel and the zealotry and all of those who were trying to wage guerrilla warfare against Roman power. And that destroys the entire political, economic structure that the Pharisees and the Sadducees had built around them. And the Sadducees become targets, especially because they tried to work with the Romans, and that becomes something that the insurgents, rebel against. So their hold on power is shaky at best, and is going to disappear in a couple of decades. So Paul is there presenting a new way out of this, and whether or not they want to listen to it or realize it as something important is now part of the heart of the debate. Again, as we move towards the conclusion of our celebration of Easter. Within that too, though, is again Jesus's the final parts of Jesus's great Last Supper speech. Again, praying that People who are brought to faith through those who are his disciples, through those who are his ambassadors and his missionaries, will work, that the faith will stick within them. And again, twice, Jesus will say, again, the world does not know you. The world does not know you. The world does not know you. And again, and this is the important thing. Again, what we think that we know of God is sometimes not really the truth about what we know about God. And that's something to think about. Again, in this world, especially within our church, that wants to continually move back into a rigidity and an order and based upon rules and regulations. Again, going back to a time in which identity was so sharply maintained and so sharply described in such a way as to almost straitjacket and strangle, the ability of faith to work. People want that kind of God, and that may not necessarily be the God, again, who Jesus revealed and who Jesus continues to reveal in this Easter season. Again, this God of experiment, this God of joy, this God of new horizons, this God of new possibilities, this God who asks us to dare, again, to put out into the deep, that duc in altum, to go into what we do not know and what we're unsure of, and to see what it is that God can bring us and to give us and to grace us with in those kinds of moments. We are never called to be, a church of order and laws based upon human precepts. We are called to be a church that dares to do one thing: never give up on the power of love, and to continue to love and to keep loving even when all seems ridiculous and stupid and useless and forlorn. Love has a power to make all things new. Love has a power to lead us through the darkness. Love has that power to make us into the people that we have been called to be. We must believe that. Jesus prays for that as he draws to the conclusion of these Last Supper speeches. May we listen to that prayer and live in that way that Christ desires us. A continued blessed Easter season, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.